Hello students, this video will be doing general exceptions BNS. It ranges from various sections, but we'll try to group them up. We'll have 2-3 parts of this same video. So first lot in part 1, then part 2, we'll do like this. I'm not wasting any time because examinations will be near, right? Study. So we'll be doing Chapter 3 of BNS 2023. Focus on the whiteboard. It's more essential. As I always say, don't go by my handwriting. Understand? Now this talks about general exceptions. Let me explain this. The BNS or Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita 2023 talks about offences and punishments. These are acts which otherwise would be offences, but since they fall within these categories and they satisfy the conditions under Chapter 3, so they would not be offences, and therefore there are general exceptions, right? So we'll categorize into some groups. The first one would be, and I forgot to say, use a direct, crisp and easy to follow, right? Okay. First one is, first group, bound by law. Now what is bound by law? Bound by law means, say, a police officer directs his subordinate to open fire and he fires and someone dies. Well, someone has died, but would that be an offense? No, because the person who opened the fire was bound by law to do it. So if you're bound by law to do it, it goes very deep, but for the CLAT examination, you just need the basic concepts and follow that. If it's bound by law, then the action though would be an offense, but since it falls under general exceptions, it would not be an offense, right? So let's have the quick thing done. Let me use a different pen. Bound by law, say police officer opening fire, that is shooting, upon order from superior. This would be an example of a police officer opening fire or shooting upon order from superior. So this is bound by law. So the person who shoots, although he has killed someone, but is protected under general exceptions. Number 2 is that will be justified by law. The sections are raised differently. I'm making it easy for you. Now, what is justified by law? Here, although you're not bound by law, but what happens is that you feel that you are justified by law. It may be a mistake, that's separate. But you feel you're justified by law, and therefore you do something which although would be an offense, but you're protected under general exceptions. Let me do it with an example. Suppose this is X. He kills this one. This is Y. Now, A, who sees all these things, he sees that X has killed Y, so he uses force and grabs X so that he can take him to the police station. But he did not know that X was acting in private defense. So private defense is a category under general exceptions when it is not an offense. Alright. Now this is number one. He uses force to uses force and grabs X, but A does not know that X was acting in private. Sorry for the handwriting, but I hope you understood this. Bound by law, he is bound by law. The police officer opens fire, shoot. Yes, because he was instructed so upon command and order from the superior. Someone dies, no offense because he is bound by law. Here, A feels he is justified by law because he sees X kill Y. So he uses force, grabs X. And now he uses force. Right? Now understand this. He does not know that X was actually acting in private defense. Later on in other videos, in other parts, you'll understand that private defense, certain categories are there where it is not an offense, it falls under general exceptions. So this is an example of justified by law. Well, now we'll talk about two things. One is judge and the other is judgment execution. Well, if a judge, while acting judicially, he does something in excess of that power, it is not an offense. Simple. Judge, if he is acting judicially, I mean if he passes orders, whatever he does, it's not an offense. Now this is more important, judgment execution. Think of this. Now the judgment is hang X. Now the hangman, he actually hangs X. So what happened? The hangman, the one who pulls the rope, he has killed X, but it's execution of a judgment. Therefore, the hangman has not committed an offense. It falls under general exceptions. Right? So 4 categories we have done. Now we'll do mistake. You have to understand mistake. If you do a lawful thing in a lawful manner, wait a moment please. If you do a lawful thing in a lawful manner, by lawful means, and then with proper care and caution, and something happens, then it's not an offense. Example. For mistake, the example would be, say, there's a person, Mr. X, right? X plows his field. So X, forget about the spelling please, P-L-O-U-G-H-S, right? X is a person who plows his field, he's plowing his field, right? He's using some object, some article, right, to plow. Let's say he is using a spade, by a spade. Now spade has 2 things, an iron top and a wooden handle. Now he is doing something which is legal, lawful means, lawful manner, using all care and caution, right? Now suddenly by accident, this iron top flies, it goes off and hits Y. Now since he was doing with proper care, proper caution, lawful act, lawful manner, the mistake happened, the accident happened, so it's not a fault. You can use the word accident for it. I just put a mistake, it will be accident, right? That's the textual word actually. take this word, accident. This would be the correct word for that. Right? So this is by accident. Right? So you have these examples of bound by law, justified by law, judge, judgment execution, accident. Now we'll come to the concept of lesser harm. Now what is lesser harm? I'll put it in a very simple way. Suppose this is a big ship. It is going, let's use a common word, the brakes, I don't know whether ships have brakes or not, but brakes fail. So what does it do? Immediately he says here, a boat with 2 passengers, and here a boat with 60 passengers. Now what happens is that he knows the brakes have failed, the captain knows the brakes failed, and the ship has to now hit either one. He chooses to hit the boat with the lesser number of passengers. He knows that he'll cause harm, but he's causing the lesser harm. So this would be an example of lesser harm, right? And this is without the criminal intent, right? There's no criminal intent, but he has to take a call, he takes a choice. Now he causes the lesser harm. This is also under general exceptions. Next, just keep in mind these parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's put it this way. We've got 6 headings. Now we'll understand child. Child would fall under 2 categories. One, remember, if it is under 7, that is below 7 years, then no offense. Nothing done by a child below 7 years is an offense. It's no offense, right? Now what happens if the child is 7 plus and 12 minus? Meaning thereby he is more than 7, less than 12. Now if he does not have the understanding, the reasoning or maturity to understand what he has done, then it would not be an offense. So you've understood two things. One is this and the other is this. This is with the child. Easy. Now we'll go for mental condition. What is mental condition? There's something up here, your mental condition, right? Now this can be of 2 types. This can be unsoundness of mind. It means that if a person is not in a position by reason of unsoundness of mind to know what he is doing, then whatever he does is not an offense. At the time what he is doing is he doesn't know what he is doing because of unsoundness of mind, it is not an offense. Now, in a court of law, it will be very complicated to prove unsoundness of mind. The arguments would be at deep, but now you're not even a student of law, you're only taking the CLAT examination. So understand this thing, unsoundness of mind would be a valid defense. It falls under general exceptions, okay? The second one, we will talk about intoxication. See, intoxication also leads to a position where the mind does not work properly. So what about intoxication? This is not intoxication, this is intoxication. Intoxication, we have got 2 parts. If this was administered, right? If administered, let's use a textual word, that will be go correct, without knowledge plus against will. Intoxication. So if the intoxication was administered without knowledge and it's against will, 2 conditions, then even if an offense is done, it is no offense. But There's a rider. That's a different section which says if it requires a particular knowledge, all right. If it requires a particular knowledge, what happens when an offense requires a particular knowledge? Now, if you say I was intoxicated, although I did it in a state where I was intoxicated, but it requires a particular knowledge and I had that and I did it, then you still have to prove that it was administered without knowledge and it was against will. All right, let me put it simply. Intoxication is a state where you reach once you drink something intoxicated, you sniff something intoxicated, or you chew, I don't know, whatever, but the state, your mental state is intoxication. At that stage, you are not able to differentiate between offense and what is not an offense, right? And you have committed an offense. You cannot say, I do not know. In the first case, you have to prove it was administered without knowledge plus against will. In the second case, when it requires a particular knowledge to do that offense, right? And you still did it when you were intoxicated. Suppose it requires a particular knowledge to operate someone or to use a particular kind of rifle or a vehicle, and you did so while you were intoxicated. You have to still say that it was administered without knowledge and against will. That's basically the sum and substance of that. Now, this should do. I think this should do for the moment. The next video will have the part 2, will have the other sections. Let's just brief up, right? Bound by law, you know, the police officer shoots on orders from the superior, so is protected. Justified by law, this fellow, our friend X sees A, he sees X kill Y. Now he runs and grabs X. He does not know that X was acting in private defense. He feels he is justified by law to do that. Therefore, it's not an offense. Now a judge acting judicially and doing something, passing orders, whatever, is not an offense. Now, judgment execution. Judgment execution, our example was hangman. If a hangman goes and pulls the rope and hangs the convict and he dies, although he has killed someone, but he is protected under judgment execution. I mean, that is the general exception. Sorry, these are the things we have done for you easily. Accident, well, it was my mistake to use the word mistake. Anyways, it's accident. So if you do something with proper care, caution, it's a lawful thing done in a lawful manner, yet something happens, sorry, it was an accident. Example, a man was plowing his field, he was using a spade. Spade has two parts. One, the iron top. Oh, the spelling is wrong. I mean, it's dirty. Iron top, sorry. Iron top, and the other one is a wooden handle. Now, suddenly the iron top flies off, it hits our friend Y, who's injured, and it's not an offense then because it was an accident. Next comes this. Lesser harm. The ship. I mean, when you know that it's imminent, you can't escape. Out of two harms, you have to cause a harm. You take a choice. But without a criminal intention, you're taking a choice. What happens then? Then if you take the lesser harm, it's protected. So, a ship, the brakes fail. I don't know whether it's brakes or not, whatever. Brakes fail, and there are two boats. Invariably, he has to hit a boat. The captain says, on boat 1, there's 2 passengers. There are 2 passengers, and on boat 2, there are 60 passengers. So what he does? He takes it towards boat A, and the 2 passengers die. But of the lesser harm, he is safe. Next comes the mental condition. Mental condition would have the unsoundness of mind. If someone, while doing an act, is suffering from unsoundness of mind, is protected. Intoxication, understand 2 basic things. First, administration without knowledge and against will. So they should sum up whatever we have learned today. But try to follow up. And this entire chart, they should help you for your CLAT examination. Take the screenshot, whatever, or zoom it up. I'm just away. But remember these basic things, the CLAT is done. Then once you go for the students, I mean as law students, you'll do the same things, a deeper version of that. Right? Thank you. Keep following the channel if you want to do that.